Are you an entrepreneur or aspiring entrepreneur organization? Business training classes, workshops. I am. Like it or not.
My name is Stephanie Renee, otherwise known as the Vibe Mistress of the nonprofit Arts Education Foundation Soul Sanctuary, and it is my pleasure and honor to serve as your MC for tonight's event, Entrepreneur Works Presents, Episode 4, with our special featured guest, Rakia Reynolds. Can we put our hands together for that? For those of you who may not know, Entrepreneur Works Presents is a live business learning vehicle that allows aspiring entrepreneurs to engage with successful business people, celebrities, and leaders in an intimate forum. That means all of you. Tonight's event will also allow 3 pre-selected entrepreneurs to receive one-on-one feedback directly from tonight's featured guest. So that's the kind of atmosphere we want to create. We want you to be successful, and we want you to get the kind of feedback that can allow you to begin or grow your business in a significant way. To kick off our event formally, it is my pleasure to introduce you to the president and CEO of Entrepreneur Works, Leslie Benalio. Combining over 30 years of commercial banking and community development experience, Leslie has built Entrepreneur Works into a nationally recognized, high-impact microfinance and small business support organization. So once again, please put your hands together for Leslie.
Thank you, Stephanie, for that warm introduction, and welcome to the 4th episode of Entrepreneur Works Presents. I am thrilled to see everyone today, a lot of familiar faces. And some new faces, so welcome. A little bit about Entrepreneur Works. We are a nonprofit organization based here in Philadelphia, and our mission is to create pathways of opportunity for entrepreneurs in our region. And we work with hundreds of entrepreneurs every year. We've worked with over 5,000 entrepreneurs and business owners throughout our almost 30 years history, to help them start up, grow, and stabilize their business. So this is one of our feature presentations. You're in for a real treat tonight. I've been in the same room as Rakia Reynolds for some speaking events, and she truly is a dynamic, inspiring, high-energy person. So without any further ado, I'd like to get the show on the road, and thank you again for coming. Oh, and thank you to our sponsors and hosts, International House, the Philadelphia Department of Commerce, who's been a supporter of ours for many, many years, and the Power Up Your Business program that's run through the Community College of Philadelphia. Thank you.
Thank you for that warm welcome, Leslie. We'd also like to welcome tonight's moderator, Earl Boyd, for a few remarks. Earl Boyd is the Director of Entrepreneur Services at Entrepreneur Works and has been an entrepreneur himself for over 30 years. In his work at Entrepreneur Works, he's helped countless entrepreneurs start their businesses, or in the case of existing businesses, develop growth strategies. Please join me in welcoming Earl Boyd.
Thank you, Stephanie Renee. Good evening. I'd like to thank all of you for coming out this evening. Entrepreneur Works Presents is an event that was created by Tatiana Bacchus, the producer of this evening's event. And after episode 1, we actually featured Debbie Allen, the choreographer, director, producer that's well known, that came here to do that particular show. And it went over very well, and we decided we would continue that. And in subsequent years, we had Rebecca Riscotti, who was a 2-time award winner on Shark Tank, Nick Baer, the owner of Saxby Coffee, and this year, of course, we have Rakia Reynolds. We set out at Entrepreneur Works and doing our Entrepreneur Works Presents feature to present those entrepreneurs who are successful and have some very good things to share about not only their careers, but about them personally. And we want to continue that this evening with Rakia. So without standing here any longer, I'm going to turn it back over to Steph so we can get Rakia out here. Thanks.
And ladies and gentlemen, you'll be hearing from Mr. Boyd in just a little while as he moderates the conversation with Rakia Reynolds in just a bit. But allow me to give you a little bit of background on tonight's special featured guest. On a personal note, I've been here in Philadelphia on and off for a little more than 20 years. And the last time that I returned to the city, people kept asking me, "Do you know Rakia?" And I was like, I keep hearing her name, but I had not had the pleasure of meeting her formally. And the term fashionista was used with her quite frequently. And folks said, between her sense of style and this big, beautiful fro of hers, we know you two will get along. And we certainly did, partly because of that sense of style, but more so because of the entrepreneurial spirit that she radiates so naturally. And that has been groomed to a fine polish that we're going to hear about this evening. Rakia Reynolds is a producer turned communications strategist. As founder of Sky Blue Media, a multimedia communications agency with an all-star roster of lifestyle, technology, and nonprofit clients such as supermodel Ashley Graham, Dell, Landit, tennis champion, and some would say the greatest of all time, Serena Williams, and Marley Dias. Noted as an influencer in the creative business industry, Rakia is sought after by companies to provide her expertise in creative development, branding, and strategic communications. Rakia has great partnerships with winning brands, including Dell Computers, who named her one of 25 tastemakers on their Inspire 100 list, and made her the face of ads published in major business magazines and run on top television networks nationwide. Please welcome fashionista, PR maven, womanist, and most importantly, for the purpose of tonight's event, entrepreneur, Rakia Reynolds.
Hey. Thanks so much for that. Y'all are so kind. Thank you so much. How about, I've never seen that. I had never seen that. So I was watching like, oh my gosh, I said all of that? So I'd never seen that, and I was telling Brandon, who his first day of working with me is today. I think Brandon might be up front. I was telling Brandon, he was like, why hadn't you seen that? And I said, typically when I do something, I'm always moving. So when we filmed that, I went on to the next thing and never looked at it afterwards. I remember them sending it to me, and I looked at the first maybe 2 seconds because they wanted me to tweet it out and put it on Facebook and Instagram, but I've never seen the entire thing. So that was awesome. Thank you so much for showing that. Thank you so much for having me here tonight. I was told that tonight would be an informal discussion. So I want to start it off there, that this is not a rehearsed thing. I'm just coming from the office where we had to put out a couple of fires. One of our clients is launching a book tomorrow, and she's an MSNBC correspondent. So we've been on the phone and on email and text with every news station known to man all day. And thank you so much, Stephanie, for that wonderful, wonderful intro. I do remember meeting you and all of our talks, so I appreciate you, and I appreciate Entrepreneur Works for having me here this evening. And I like the topic of tonight, innovating in your own lane, but I want to rewind and talk about the definition of entrepreneur, because I do feel like things like that, it's a glorious thing. And for those of you who grew up in the church, when they say, you know, people see all of the glory and they don't know the story, I feel like people should know more of the story and see less of the glory. And that was glory. And that's probably another reason I don't watch those things, because I feel like in my celebratory 10th year, Sky Blue Media is in our celebratory 10th year, Thank you so much. I feel like each year is still like year one, year two, like it doesn't feel like, oh my gosh, we're in our 10th year. But the definition of entrepreneur is the person who assumes financial risk. Financial risk, that's a heavy thing. Financial risk. And I think that in this current state, we see all of these glorified stories of these entrepreneurs who are closing their Series A and they're closing rounds of money for $2 million, $5 million. I heard somebody say the other day, oh yeah, we just raised $13 million. And I'm like, in what world are people raising $13 million? And I talked a little bit in that video about how I started the agency with my husband's Christmas bonus. It wasn't a lot of money. I just want to point out that my husband was in his maybe second or third year working as the GM of Citizens Bank Park, and his Christmas bonus was almost $2,000. So almost, it wasn't quite $2,000, and out of that, we still had to pay, we had to catch up on daycare. We were behind in all of our bills, so I remember having to take that check and say, we've got to catch up on our daycare bills, because daycare, when our kids were in daycare, it was a lot. It was like $300 a week. And I remember missing a couple of weeks and them saying, you've got to pay us 2 weeks. So out of that, we caught up on daycare. And then I'm a person that really does have to visualize things. I have to see it. Like I have to sit in a desk. And even though it was it was a really fly-ass cardboard desk, sorry. I mean, it was awesome. It was really this like make your own desk. But it was beautiful. Like, I felt like, oh my gosh. I was like, I have a desk. I have this amazing chair. I was in an office. It was a co-shared space at that time, and I was sharing it with an architect and a freelance writer. And it was just, we were all getting started. So I felt that energy of we're all doing this together. And I think one of the things that I did in the very beginning, because I came from, and a lot of the things that we're seeing now is, this ebb and flow in communication. So when I started with honestly, with nothing, but it was in this world where traditional media was in a little bit of an influx. So we started the agency, I am a fan of saying we and not I, so you'll hear me say we a lot, but it was really just myself at that time. So I started the agency in 2009, right after coming off of a recession. I had worked at MTV and TLC and Discovery Health, and I was freelancing at all of these places. And then in between, the fashionista part only came because I was freelancing, doing fashion editorials for Lucky Magazine, and I was able to keep some of my samples. So that was it. It was, going into those fashion closets, being able to wear samples and things when you were freelancing. So I decided to take all of the things that I'd learned at MTV and TLC and Discovery Health and freelancing at Lucky Magazine and put it into this bowl and mix it into what I could do for myself. And after, in between working in television and all of those things, the way I ended up in Philadelphia full-time was that I was headhunted by a public relations agency here. And it was a very traditional agency. They were still faxing things. They were faxing things. And I was the only person of color working at the agency. So they were giving me accounts that they thought black people wanted to work on. And they said to me one day, we're going to give you and I can't give you the name of the restaurant, but we're going to give you the blank seafood account because black people love seafood. And I was like, oh, okay. At that time, I was just like, okay, whatever, it's fine. Then they would say things like, and black people love, I went to a store one day and I picked up some bagels and lox. My 16-year-old, she's now 16, in that video, she was 14. My 16-year-old at the time was maybe 3 or 4, and she loved bagels and lox. And so I would go to the market, once a week and pick up bagels and lox, put it in the fridge at work, and then, take the train home. And one of the people at the agency said, why do you eat bagels and lox? I'm like, I don't know. Why do you eat Cinnamon Toast Crunch? Because we eat food. I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. And they were like, Rakia, you're different. Black people like fried chicken and ribs, but you choose to eat bagels and lox. And I was like, okay, I think that might be my last day, because I know where I'm from. And although you guys see this nice, consistent Rakia, Rock from the Block comes out every now and again. And that was the tipping point. That was, I don't think that I can risk myself to have to respond to things like this. So that's when I said, okay, I know that this entrepreneur thing in me is going to burst because of things like this. I just can't fit into the spaces where I'd like to fit. So I didn't really become an entrepreneur because I wanted to take a financial risk. I didn't become an entrepreneur because it was a glorified thing to me and it looked attractive and it was like, I want to own my own company. Absolutely not. I honestly said to myself, I want to go to work at 8:30 and come home at 4:30. That's all I want to do. And I want to have a good job with benefits because that's what I was taught to do. My mother was a secretary for a law firm and the IRS, and my dad just retired from being a longshoreman. And they taught me, work hard, Rakia, work hard, get a good job with some benefits so that you can retire and go on vacation. So that's all I knew. Work hard, retire, so that you can go on vacation when you retire. So if you grow up in that mindset of somebody constantly telling you, this is what you have to do, that's all I knew. So becoming an entrepreneur was really accidental for me. It was really through a series of unfortunate events. It was being laid off as a television producer and being unemployed. When you're unemployed, I don't know how many of you have ever been unemployed, but you live on a budget. And for me, I couldn't have peanut butter and jelly and tuna fish sandwiches for the rest of my life. That was my thing. And the tuna fish sandwiches, let me just tell y'all. We had great tuna melts. We had tuna with crackers. We had tuna with fancy relish. Like, we did everything with our budget. And I woke up one morning, again, just telling you the story behind the glory. We were living in an apartment, and I went to pull out some bread to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and a mouse jumped into our bread. And I was like, oh my gosh, Lord God, you did not put me on this earth to be this person. What can we do? What can we do? So there were so many instances like that, these series of unfortunate events that said to me, Rakia, this is a challenge. And I've always learned that challenges provoke the power within you. And I had gone through some very challenging times. The mouse in the bread, that was one challenge. I can't deal with mice. The mice in the bread, all of these things. So it was time for me to really step out on my own and take a major risk. And again, for people that have to assume a financial risk, at that point, I didn't have any finances to risk. So for me, it was stepping out on faith. My risk was that I was pregnant. I found out I was pregnant with our second child when I decided to start this company. And so many people kept saying, you don't have just one child, you're gonna have 2 children right now. How are you going to be able to do this? You have people to feed. And my husband and I at the time, since my husband was working, he was just getting started in his career, he wasn't in a position where he could say, you do whatever you want and I will take care of all of us. He was a budding corporatepreneur, as I like to call him. He was a budding corporatepreneur at that time. And so going through all of those things really helped to provoke this challenge. Those challenges helped to provoke the power. And I think when we talk about what sets entrepreneurs apart from other entrepreneurs, it really is your unique story. Like, we all have one story. No story is the same. So when we work with clients, and we sit in these strategy sessions and people say, what are we going to do for our marketing strategy? And what are we going to do for our marketing plan? And what is our unique value proposition? The first thing I ask people is, what is your purpose? Like, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? We always say the 3 Ps. What's your purpose? What's the position? And what's the personality? And how are you standing out from the crowd? And I think those are all gathered by the story that you tell. So storytelling is always at the nucleus of everything that we're doing. And what I'm seeing now in my 10th year of business is that we started with traditional PR, and then we got into non-traditional, and then it was digital, and then it was social. And in college, I studied international business and marketing. I took a ton of classes in psychology because long story short, I did go into graduate school thinking that I was going to be a counseling psychologist. So I studied a lot of psychology, which then got me into why people think the way that they think, why people consume the way they consume, why people watch television and tweet at the same time, why people only want to watch short format television. So I think, and I know is this my wrap up right here? All right now. So I just wanted to leave you guys, and I'm probably going to talk a little more, but there are some trends and some shifts happening with storytelling right now. And before it was, you had 6 ways that you could tap into someone's story, and you had 6 ways to really capture someone. Now we're in a point in time where you have to touch people at 14 different touch points. 14. And before, when I started out, it was give someone a 1-minute story. Then it was give someone the elevator pitch in 30 seconds or less. We're now asked by companies to be able to sell a story to someone in 6 seconds. I can't sneeze in 6 seconds. So I say all that to say is, as you're paying attention to your own unique story, your unique value proposition, your purpose, personality, and position in the marketplace, you have to understand how people are consuming nowadays. You have to understand what the trends are. And so we call it omni-channel marketing because you have to touch people in 14 different points. It's not just hitting someone with traditional PR through a press release or a media alert. It's omni-channel. You have to hit someone on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, Snapchat, WhatsApp. All of those messaging mediums are becoming a part of one strategy, and that one strategy is to communicate a story. Thank you.
Well, that was just the introduction. As you can see, she is a wealth of knowledge. So we are going to transition now to our one-on-one feedback for our pre-selected entrepreneurs who are a part of tonight's program. Each of them have a short video that we will screen for you, and then following the video, Rakia will share words of wisdom on each one. I do know that Rakia is not the only one who has experienced some crunch time with their business today, so I believe we have 2 of the 3 organizations represented tonight, but we will play all 3 videos and allow Rakia to give feedback on each of them. So first up, we have Isis Lester, and her company is titled Styled by a Goddess. Cue video, please.
I went to a career day recently, and I spoke to 7th and 8th graders, and they asked me, do you feel accomplished? And I looked at the little boy and I was like, oh my God. And I didn't know how to answer that question. So with all of the success that you had recently, within 10 years, do you feel accomplished and successful with everything that you have currently?
Oh, that's a great question. First of all, I want to give you snaps and claps on that video. Yes.
He was here now, and I was like, oh my God, they did a
Yes, that was.
You know what I was
going to see either.
Amazing. That was amazing. And congratulations to all of the work
Thank
that
you.
you've been doing.
Thank you.
And it's just great to be in a room with successful people like yourself.
Thank you.
And do I feel successful? Gosh, you know what? This is so funny. I watched the video of Jay Leno and like Nick Cannon once, and he said, successful people never feel successful, and they never feel like they've accomplished anything. And when he said that, I was like, well, maybe I am successful because I never feel successful. And I think, as a child, I suffer from ADHD, which is why I became a television producer. That's a whole different story. And people with ADHD, they forget short-term things. So like, again, they move so quickly. So sometimes I forget some of the things that I've done until someone reminds me. And that's the God's honest truth. I will forget until someone reminds me. And my latest accomplishment, and I always say we, is that we got Serena on the cover of Forbes. And for me, that was a moment of, it started off as something. And on that team for Serena, I work on the marketing and the branding, not the traditional PR, because I've removed myself from that. And I overstepped my boundaries to do that. But in that moment, I was like, sometimes overstepping my boundaries to get someone like Serena on the cover of Forbes, I don't want to say it's successful. It feels like I'm doing my job. Like I always feel like I'm doing my job. And in my mind, I always had this scope of work. So like, Rakia, what is your scope of work? For all of these clients, what are you supposed to be doing? And at the end of the day, it's to help them to tell a story that hasn't been told. And in that moment, it was a story, out of all of the stories of Serena Williams, I was racking, what is the story that hadn't been told? And we were able to tell that story. So that's a long-winded way of saying, I don't know the answer to that.
I said the same thing.
I just don't know the answer to
But
that.
thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Isis. The next entrepreneur we are featuring is Jade Alston of the Artist's Kitchen. Cue video, please.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Artist's Kitchen. If you're new here, my name is Jade Alston and this is the Artist's Kitchen.
Right now, I'm on my way to the grocery store to pick up groceries. I wanted to use up all the stuff we have because a lot of times I'll waste stuff and I'm trying to reduce food waste. But right now, I'm going to take you to different grocery stores to show you where I find these products. Like, I really am passionate about quality products, organic foods. So I'm going to show you where I find them and how I try to do it and stay within a pretty solid budget. Trader Joe's is really great for nuts. Like, they have Brazil nuts, they have hemp seeds at a good price, and prepared foods. So there you go. Look at all of this beautiful, beautiful produce, some local, all organic. I'm really excited that my haul came up to a little bit over $100. Look at this. It looks ricotta-like, cheesy. It's really good. Everything really comes together so nicely. And you get the veggie servings, you get that ricotta, chunky, cheesy taste. I mean, really, I love it. I'm proud of myself. You done good, girl. You done good.
Hi, Rakia.
Hi.
I guess y'all all know now, my name is Jade Alston, and I'm a plant-based chef. I'm also a mom, but I'm also a singer and a songwriter, and I just decided that I'm going to master my guitar that I've been staring at for about 10 years.
I love that.
I just wrote a plant-based cookbook that I self-published, and so I do all these different things. Food is just the thing that I've been focused on now, especially after having experienced, like I said, I was diagnosed with heart disease, thyroid disease, and through that, depressed and medication. And so I was a musician first, and I experienced all this illness, and I had to heal myself because I just felt like I just cannot be sick. I just cannot live this way. And so I tried a plant-based diet, and it progressed. And so it progressed so much so that the Department of Commerce decided to give me a grant to open up my own storefront. So we'll help increase access to plant-based foods in underserved communities.
That's awesome.
Thank you. I guess what I'm saying is I'm a creative, I'm an artist at heart, and that's why it's called The Artist Kitchen, because I started as a person creating art, and food is just another form of expression for me. And as I'm building out all these things, I have a cookbook, I have the storefront, I have the digital store, I have music. I just did my first show in 5 years, thanks to my plant-based diet, like a couple weeks ago.
Awesome.
And I still want to sing, and I'm a mother. I have 2 kids, and I have a man.
A man.
I'm a woman, you know? I'm doing all these things. I'm a multifaceted person, just like you and just like every other person in this room. And I'm just trying to figure out, as an entrepreneur, as I grow and I express myself in these different outlets, how do I structure the marketing, the branding, so that it makes sense, so that it's not like this girl's all over the place, she don't know what she's doing, versus this silent person who just has these different, who kind of has these different brands that are building. I'm just trying to figure out how to market it so that it makes sense to me and to the people who I'm following. Like, how do I bring food into music, or do I keep it separate? Am I Oprah, who got all these things, or am I, under O, or am I like the silent threat who just has all this stuff, and I'm the person just behind it?
Yeah. Well, first, I've watched videos of you and Jasmine.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I've watched them. And I think they're great. And I think you already sort of touched upon the answer. I think true creatives are all multifaceted, because Daniel Pink, the author, said it best: right brainers rule the world. So if we're constantly thinking with the right side of our brain, and we're imagining and we're innovating, and innovation, the true definition of innovation is evolving, transformation, and changing. And that's innovative entrepreneurs and creatives, that's what we do. We change time over time. Music becomes an art piece becomes a sgraffito painting. A sgraffito painting can become a great dish of food. So all of it interconnects. You just have to draw the lines of inference so that people can see the interconnectivity. So it doesn't look like you're all over the place. I mean, one of the things that we tell clients all of the time, you have to remain streamlined and you have to look like you're focused. So if you're focused on all of those things and you're drawing a line to how they connect, it won't look like you're all over the place. You just have to message it in a way in your marketing strategy that it all goes back to being creative. It all goes back to some form of therapy. Music is a form of therapy. Painting is a form of therapy. Preparing food is a form of therapy. So you have this artwork that is, and this creativity that is essentially healing people based on an experience that you had. And I think as time keeps progressing forward, we're going to see that a lot of people are going to have to move towards plant-based diets and alter their diets. I sat with someone at Fast Company a few weeks ago, and she said, in the next 20 years, we're not even going to be able to consume, like our bodies won't physically be able to consume meat. So the way that you're already, I mean, she was talking about people eating crickets and things like that.
I've seen,
so
they have that at the health food stores.
Okay, so
Yeah.
and I was going to say, you're already ahead of the trend. So I think you positioning yourself as a trendsetter and a true creative who's brought all of these elements of creativity, innovation, and transformation under one underarching umbrella. So think of it as an umbrella, and what are your tenets? Usually in a marketing plan, people say, what's your goal? What are the objectives? What are the deliverables? And then people always say, what are the marketing tent poles, or what are the marketing tenets, or what are your main message points? Some companies have 7 to 10 message points. You touched upon 4. So take all of those things, being a mother, being someone's woman, being a singer, getting into guitar, being someone that can prepare, healing food, put that under one umbrella and make the nucleus of that Venn diagram creativity and innovation.
Okay, so Jay Dawson's telling a creative story. Just creativity. Okay, and they said I could ask 2 questions, so I have one more. Thank you. So, like I said, I just partnered with the Department of Commerce to bring healthy food to underserved communities. So, I mean, in the basic sense, we're gonna be bringing plant-based food to the hood. So, I was wondering, how do I engage the physical community? Because I've been working, I feel like I have like a good 6 or 7 months before we can get the storefront open. So I've been trying to really focus on building out the digital storefront, which is the cookbook and anything that we can sell digitally, like teas and things like that. But I'm doing all that so that I'm trying to take the pressure off of the hood. But then I'm like, am I not giving the hood enough credit? How do I engage the people that are there so I don't feel like I have to drive everyone to my storefront? But the neighborhood, I can embrace the neighborhood, and the neighborhood can embrace me, and we can, build something organically.
Yeah. Here's the thing. You already have the answer. You just said it. First, and I love when people say from the hood. I'm from the hood. I'm from Newark, New Jersey. And I actually sit on a board of trustees for an organization that gives grants to Trenton. So I understand the economic development portion and why they're investing in you, the Department of Commerce, to do this, because there's going to be a major shift in giving over the next 5 years, and people will see that. I think in order for you to leverage the opportunities that were given to you, and in order for you to maximize the potential of a traditional storefront, you have to do it the community way. So we can't focus all on the digital aspect, and we can't focus all online. So there's the offline part and there's the online. I think you've mastered the online. You have videos, you have a great social media presence, you've got that. I think you've got to get into more of a challenging space, which marketers like to call experiential marketing, and it's really an event. So you have to tap into the experiential marketing piece and have more community-focused events. I know people focus a lot on social, and they say social media is gold, but email addresses and one-on-one interactions are platinum. So if you can look at people and have more of those one-on-one conversations by hosting experiential, informative, educational events, maybe it's, edutainment, since you're an artist and a creative, you mix all of your natural gifts together and have something that's catered towards the community. So I think the biggest thing, or the thing that you can leverage the most, is having more of the experiential touch base.
And reaching people, if I'm not online, I just knock on doors.
I mean, here's the thing. You should partner with people. There are all of these business improvement districts that are nonprofits that are run by about 20 or 30 people. Connect with the community. There are business improvement districts that have boards where there's 20 or so people that have a block captain there. You connect with them and collaborate with them so that you could have some sort of reciprocal agreement with them. Hey, here's what I'm giving you, and here's what I'd like to give back. Wharton professor Adam Grant always talks about this give-get society. We live in a give-get society. Give so that you can get. Give people a resource. Give them something that they can rely upon. Give them something that they can look forward to, and then you're able to get those people to come to your events and to come to the storefront.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
So our final entrepreneur unfortunately had one of those days and is unable to be with us. So we're going to show you all his video. And Rakia, if you can give feedback on the presentation, we'd appreciate that. His name is Chef Curtis Evans, and his company is EMI Dinner Series.
would say undocumented workers and people from the incarcerated community. They are like the backbone of a lot of kitchens. So any fish, any steak, anything like you've probably touched in any, it's probably an undocumented worker or someone from the incarcerated community done prepared your protein before it hits your table. A lot of times, a lot of people just want a chance, and I think a lot of people don't get that chance, or some people abuse the privilege of, oh, you're incarcerated, you need my help. So they abuse that. So I just wanted to have the dinner series. Without awareness, you can't affect change. You can't make change like legislative laws. All of that stuff is not if no one knows. It's bringing awareness to the traps of the bail system, reentry, everything that compiles of the criminal justice system that's in place to hold poor people of color back. So I put food and conversation in the room together, and ultimately the goal is to lead to policy change.
So wait, what's the question? Because I know him and I think he's amazing. And what he's doing for the community, I think, is phenomenal. I've actually had conversations with him and have attended one of his dinners. So I just want to know what a good question could be.
So this is going to merge right into our moderated discussion. We are in the home stretch of our prepared program, and you guys all right? Yes. Everybody, you feeling energized? You feeling informed? Excellent. Well, Mr. Earl Boyd is now coming up to take over our moderated part of the discussion, which will be immediately followed by a brief opportunity for you to come up to the audience microphone and ask some questions of Rakia yourselves. So let us now turn over the stage to Mr. Boyd.
And I'm going to give you all an opportunity to ask those questions because I know that you want to get some feedback from Rakia. And this feels like old times for me because we've had an opportunity to go out a couple of times and have some discussions about business. But getting right to Curtis, what kinds of things would you share with Curtis about the next steps for him and what he can be doing with that project?
I think he's really focused on the work right now, which is, a really important thing in terms of like brand value and proposition. He really speaks about the purpose of the brand. You already know the personality of his brand. When we work with clients, we always say, who would you be if I walked into a room, who would you be at the party? We know who he is at the party, and we know what his position is in the marketplace. I think for this next year, it might be important for him to really understand if he's gonna be focused on this, regionally in the city of Philadelphia, to really understand the shifts and some of the data and statistics that are coming out of Philadelphia as they work on this global identity and brand. So the city is going through a rebrand right now. Hold on one second. Can you answer this? This is Sergi, and we have some fires. Can you just ask him if everything's okay? He's called a couple times. The city is going through a massive rebrand right now to understand how we attract people nationally and internationally. So I think as a business owner, he needs to understand some of the data and statistics that is coming out of that research. Also, he's doing something really interesting with food. In the travel and tourism industry, the nucleus of travel and tourism is food. So he's got something there, and he speaks to a mission in which people are trying to, I would say, wrap their head around. Everybody wants to be able to have some sort of impact or address areas of concern. And what he's done is he's really gone to the root of some major concerns right now. So for him, I think it's one, being really consistent with his work, being able to develop a model of scalability, but understanding the data and statistics that are coming out of Philadelphia, because he can really help this community. I think one of the things that the United Way is doing right now is trying to get us out of trying to shift where we are in the sense of poverty. And there are all of these statistics that come out around poverty. And Philadelphia is in a unique position to get to the next number. Like we're not going to be in the top 10 forever. And there are all of these interesting pieces of information to say why we're going to get out of that. So I think he should be partnering with the people that are trying to make some really significant changes within the city, make a case study, and then scale to other cities.
That's great. We'll be able to share this with Curtis because we're videotaping everything, and I'm sure he'll get a lot out of this. Now, there's a lot going on up here, and this is an opportunity for you all to really see an entrepreneur that has a growing business at work. Now, she's doing this event, but she just handed the cell phone to her assistant. She has a couple other things going on. Yeah, operations manager, hired today, yeah. I mean, there are a lot of things going on with her as an entrepreneur right now, but she's taking care of all of them. How do you do that?
You know what? I really do this thing where I wake up every morning, and this is probably not, listen, anything that I say up here is not for you to go ahead and do. I wake up every morning and, like I'm juggling so many things. And I always, again, visualizing these things, I'm juggling all of these pins. And, one pin is the mom pin, one pin is the entrepreneur pin, one is the leader, one is the sister and the wife and the friend, and all of these things that I am, the firefighter, because I'm putting out so many fires, and a lot of my job as a CEO at this point is when I'm being less tactical as a CEO, I'm either growing the business and bringing on new business, or I'm putting out a fire. That's typically my day-to-day. So as I'm juggling, I visualize a pin dropping for that day so that I'm not disappointed or deflated if I've dropped the ball at any point in the day. And I've dropped the pin so many times. My last assistant will tell you that I dropped many pins on one day because of the one pin that mattered the most was me being a mother. And I was booked for a meeting, and I didn't leave the meeting exactly what I should have left that meeting. I stayed, I entertained questions and things like that, and I missed the train by 3 minutes. I ran, because there was traffic, sprained my ankle, still made myself to the train, missed the train by 3 minutes, and then when I was so furious and upset, I got on the phone and yelled at her for allowing me to miss the train, when it was my responsibility to leave the meeting on time because she had set that in her calendar. So the answer to that is, I don't do it all. I'm trying to harmonize all of those things, but there are days when I do drop many pins, and sometimes my form of letting that out is not a good thing. It might be yelling at my assistant saying, this better never happen again. And if this happens again, you won't have a job. Now, that's a horrible thing to do, because that is using my power to tell someone that they won't be able to pay their rent, or they won't be able to make their car payment. So what I've tried to do is to have balance on the weekends. And I know that on the weekends, I'm not going to be putting out that many fires. So what I now do is I really do a lot of yoga, only on the weekends, because that's the only time I have time to do that. And I spend a lot of time with my children, because they are the ones that make me sing, and they're the ones that make me laugh, and they're the ones that make me super happy. My husband would be so mad if I didn't say he was included in that equation, but he works my last nerves, and he knows that. But what I do is I really surround myself with people that are going to feed my soul. People always say, Rakia, you're tired. Like, you do so much. Why are you always entertaining people at your house? And 2 years ago, last year, we bought our dream home. Last year, after all of these years of work, I was able to sit with my husband, and we were able to buy our dream home. And I said, because of the money we spend on this house, this is our vacation, our oasis, our spa, our brunch day, our restaurant. It's camp. It is everything. So in order to like refuel my soul and lift myself back up, because that whole thing is, everything needs to be unplugged every now and again, is I really try to be diligent about unplugging on the weekends and spending a ton of time with my family. I entertain a lot of friends. We have brunch at my house probably every other Sunday. Somebody's always at my house, and I surround myself with people that are gonna make me laugh or inspire me, or like say, Rakia, it's okay, or hey, Rakia, you were an asshole yesterday. Can we talk about it? Is everything okay? One of my clients said to me the other day, you're doing too much. You might need to see a behavioral psychologist. And I said, thank you for the great advice. So I surround myself with people that give me advice. Not always good advice, but I need that to fuel my soul, because I'm not at the point in my life where I'm able to balance it all. I have meltdowns too.
Okay. All right. I'm going to ask you one other question, then I'm going to turn it over to the audience. When I first met you and we had our first conversation, you were at a different place in your business. Wasn't quite as successful as you are now. A lot of times when people hear that about the kind of success that you're having and the way that your business is doing, they assume that there are no challenges, there are no problems. But I know different and you know different. What kinds of challenges are there for you now?
I think challenges evolve. In the very beginning, because I was a budding entrepreneur, the challenge was that I was assuming that financial risk, and I didn't have finances. So every 2 weeks, I would sweat when payroll came about. And I used to get myself so sick. At one point, I thought I developed an ulcer, because the challenges were, how am I going to be able to pay people? How am I going to pay for my insurance? How am I going to pay my rent? All I want to do is live a life where I am able to meet everything or exceed expectations when it comes to the financial aspect. Then I made it past that. And it's like when payday comes and goes at this point, and I'm like, oh, y'all got paid? Oh, okay. Oh, you got a bonus? That's great. I remember signing off on those things. And once I got to a point where, finances weren't stressing me out. Now, there's still always some sort of challenge. I want to hire more people. I want to get more technology. I want more things. The more you do, the more you essentially, you need. I think the challenges now are that because I'm in the 10th year of business, I do want more. I strive for more. At one point it was like, we got within a few years of one another, we got Dell as a client. We launched Uber here in the city of Philadelphia. We were working with Global Citizen. We were working with Comcast. We were working with Serena Williams. We were launching Marley Diaz. And we had all of these clients, and it was like, oh my gosh, I feel like we're at a point where I can say I've almost made it. And now, after, being able to do all of those things, it's like, what's the next thing? And I think as you said earlier, like the success piece, there's always something else I want after that. So the challenge is, what do I do next, and what do I want to do now? And then I've gotten to this point where I didn't start this business with an exit strategy. So note to self, when you start a business, write the exit strategy as well. The business was started because I didn't want to do that other thing. And I'm not saying that's the best way to do business. I'm telling you my mistakes so that you can learn from them. I didn't start this business with an exit strategy. So essentially, when you start a business and you don't have an exit strategy, it is very hard to scale yourself. So the challenge now is that I've been introduced to all of these clients in Fortune 500 companies and all of these celebrities, and 80% of them want me to show up at the meeting. 80% of them say, I don't want her there, I don't want him there, I need you to lead that meeting. So when you saw me in the hallway just now putting out a fire, it was a client saying, I don't want to talk to her, I need you on the call. And I said, listen, I can't get out of this thing until 8:30. And she said, I'll be on the line waiting for you. So those are true challenges. When you create a business that's a lifestyle business and you insert your brand into the business so much, sometimes it's hard to scale out of those things.
Okay, all right, great. We'll give you all a chance to ask Rakia a question.
Hi, Rakia.
Hi.
My name is Melissa. My question is, It's a struggle for a lot of us as entrepreneurs, especially when we're still working. And it's been my struggle the past couple of years that it's hard to even separate yourself. So like on LinkedIn, like if I have my business page and I'm looking for a job and people are like, wait, you own a business. Like, why are you applying for this job? Or they'll always ask the question like, well, how committed are you to this company? And you know what I mean? So for me, it's been a challenge to even separate the two or to know how to integrate the two. Like, do you have any kind of advice as to how to continue maintaining your presence as an entrepreneur, but while you're still in the 9-to-5 box?
While you're still with the side, it's the infamous side hustle. And I think we are living in the slash economy now where you're a photographer, a singer-songwriter, and, slash, food expert, slash marketing expert. And I think it's time for people to embrace that. And I'll even tell you some of the challenges. I just interviewed someone. We were opening up, I think, 3 positions at Sky Blue Media, and I was interviewing someone for a senior account executive, and I saw that she owned she ran a nonprofit like that she founded and everything. And one of the questions I asked her was, how committed can you be to Sky Blue Media when you have something else? And she told me she was separating her passion from her profession, which I thought was so profound. And she said, my passion is to blah, 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 blah with this nonprofit, and I founded this because I was really interested in making an impact, blah, blah, blah. But my profession is communications and marketing and public relations. And I am dedicated to being a professional member of your team. So I think when you are interviewing at places, you just have to assure the employer who's making an investment in you that you're equally as invested as they're putting money towards you and your whatever it is that they're giving you and your work. So it's okay to be a multitude of things. It's okay to be a part of the slash economy. You just have to be transparent and tell people that. I found that other people that I've interviewed have not been upfront and honest about those things. They've just said, oh, I'm applying for this, and then I have to go and find on their IG handle or their LinkedIn profile that they're a part of 50 other things that they didn't bring up in the interview. And had they brought it up in the interview and been very transparent about their intention and their process, it would have been a different story. So I would say my advice to you is be as authentic as you can and be as transparent as you can be.
Next question. No, right here.
How you doing? I just had a question. You had mentioned earlier about pushing yourself, your boundaries, and I think it was like, it just intrigued me when you said it. Well, like I think it was dealing with something about the marketing aspect, and you didn't want to go a certain way, and you decided to push yourself. And I just wanted to know what were those areas that you went in that you weren't comfortable going into, if you can remember back what you said.
That's what I was just going to tell you. I don't remember what I said. I said pushing myself and pushing those boundaries. Oh, I think it might have been, was I talking about the early days of public relations where they wanted me to fit into one box and be a traditional PR person? Was I talking about that?
Yeah, I think it was that.
So I think it was essentially, I don't deal with discomfort very well. I know the new saying is be comfortable with being uncomfortable. I hate being uncomfortable. And I don't like walking into a room where I don't feel like I'm gonna perform to my best potential, or I'm going to make any sort of impact. When I walk into a room and I walk into a meeting, I want to be the best that I can be. And if I'm in a situation where I can't be the best that I can be, it's time for me to get out of that situation. If I know that I'm going to be in a situation where I'm hitting the glass ceiling, or I'm hitting a moment of like, hey, this isn't going to work, then it's time to remove myself. I know that most people are known for the last thing that they've done. And if I know my last thing is going to be half-assed because of the surroundings or the environment or just the emotional state of being, then it's time for me to move on. I've sacrificed working with great brands and a ton of money because I knew walking into it, and as you get older, you're able to discern what's going to work and what's not going to work. And I think for me, it's always a feeling of, is this going to work in the long term? Is this not only going to feed my family, but also feed my soul? So if I'm put in a situation where it's going to be in a box and I can't flex my creative muscles or be who I am authentically, then it's time to leave. I never want to be half-assed. I'm only as good as the last thing that I've done. My company is only as great as the last project that they've put out. And if it's not going to be great, then we can't do it.
One more question.
Peace and greetings, sister. How are you?
Hey, how are you?
My name is I'm good. I'm great. My name is Nefertari Muhammad. I'm of Sisters Original Supreme Pies. I have been running this business for 5 years, and I'm actually a five-time winner of my pies. And 4 years straight, it has been with Entrepreneur Works Taste of Success.
Ooh.
I just actually won first prize just a couple of weeks ago for our butternut cheese pie. Actually won $500. So my question to you is that I need some advice. It's time for me to move on to the next level. I want to put these pies on the market, and I'm really challenged. So I need some advice.
Yeah, I love the food space. I love food. That's the number one. So it's my favorite thing to talk about. I think leverage all of the success that you've had as an award-winning, baker, as an award-winning, desserts company, or whatever the proper terminology is that you're using, and collaborate with restaurants or businesses that want your products. Sometimes we want to take a full, like a full leap and say, I want to open this. My aunt wants to open up a cake business. She makes really great cakes. And one of the things that I talked to her about was, are you someone that wants to make cakes, or are you someone that wants to run a business? Because you can't do both in this short period of time. I always believe in the power of partnerships. So partnering up with someone that, if your strong suit is really delivering the best in class when it comes to cakes and desserts and pies, do that. We talk about innovating in your own lane. Be really, really strong at that, and partner up with someone else that's really great at the business part. And that could be a restaurant that just opened. That could be, a farmer's market. That could be someone that's doing something that doesn't necessarily offer what you offer. And this could be for any sort of landscape. So I would say the way to take it to the next level, because I believe in the brick by brick, take it to the next level by collaborating with someone else, building off of that momentum, creating another great case study. And then when you've created, significant case studies, and you can get some great financial backing to bring someone on that can operate and run, so you can stay creative and stay in your lane and still offer the best in class. Do it that way.
Yeah, I'd like to bring attention to this. If we had never mentioned that she had other things going on right this minute, we would never know it. She's a real professional, and she's good and great at what she does. She hasn't shortchanged her client, who she has to get on the phone with immediately following this, but she hasn't shortchanged Entrepreneur Works or you. She's provided some real expertise, some real insight, and it's been great. Would you all like to hear her again? We're going to ask her to come back once here. But hey, it's really been tremendous, and thanks a lot. Yeah, it's been great.
We do not want to stop the networking that can continue to happen among yourselves. So we ask that if you've got business cards, if you've heard a question in the room today that makes you want to network with someone else in the room, then by all means, carry that conversation just beyond the doors and make sure that you hook up with someone else who has made it their business to be here tonight to learn and grow just as you have. Continue to take this entrepreneurial spirit and make Philadelphia the city that we know it should be, to nurture new and growing businesses in a way that can benefit us all. Thank you very much for coming. Please get home safely and have a good night.